and 3 in Greenland, and the most northern base in Greenland was well above the Arctic Circle, not actually at the North Pole, but the closest military base in the world to the North Pole. It was called Operation Blue Jay at that time, and it was top secret. I wasn't allowed to mention even the code name to my family. My duty assignments in those 45 years were many. 4 years of that time was enlisted, and 39 years as an officer. My family was involved in my career. My wife was a military wife. When I elected to leave active duty and return or go to the reserve, she didn't want me to do that. She wanted me to stay in uniform. I was in uniform, incidentally, the day I met her, and I guess that made an impression because she never wanted me to be out of uniform. She herself was active at the military bases I was assigned to, and on 2 different years she was elected Volunteer of the Year at Grissom Air Force Base up in Peru. So she had a hand in that. And at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, she did a lot of volunteer work and got recognition for her work in the hospital and in the pharmacy there. So she, and the Officers Club and the thrift shop. And as Jill mentioned, each of my 5 children were born on a different military base, so we were a military family. My own grandchildren don't realize or understand that, but we were. Jill mentioned I was in the first officer class of the Air Force. The Air Force became a separate branch equal to the Army and Navy on September 1, 1947. And on that same date, I became an officer cadet in the ROTC program at Indiana University. When the public asks a veteran about their service, what they are hoping to hear is a story from him to them about his combat experience. In all my years and all my services and background, I was never in combat. I was trained for combat, but never in combat. I thought for a while that was something to be concerned about, and it was career-wise. But I felt ashamed of the fact that I hadn't served in combat. Then I began looking up numbers, and I found this to be true. In the history of our country, we have had about 45 million men put on a military uniform. Of those 45 million, only about 20% have served in combat or in a combat zone. 80% of us have served outside the combat area where we were not being shot at or attempting to kill somebody else. So that part of my background is not unique, it's common. But those who do serve outside combat itself are still subject to some risk. And on 6 occasions, my own life was risked as a result of having just being in service and doing my duty and going where I was told and doing what I was told. 6 times I was close to either being injured or killed. The most prevalent one of those was on a plane that I was scheduled to fly in from Pepperell Air Force Base in Newfoundland to Goose Bay in Labrador. An hour before flight time, I found that my family had a problem and an emergency. So I called flight operations and asked them to take me off the flight plan. And they scratched my name. That plane took off without me, crashed in Labrador, no survivors. That was one of the 6 things that happened to me, which was a danger to my life and limb.